You know, instead of necessarily waiting for environmentalists and scientists to help fix this problem, we really should use the private sector itself to fix the problem. Tweak the way, you know, otherwise the way we have it now, this problem is just an externality to the equation, and we need to change that. We need to add this variable back into the equation of how things run and figure out the economics of how we're going to fix it. You know, they are not the engine that's causing harm to this earth. They are not the engine to make things happen on a massive scale, be it constructive or destructive or whatever your opinion. It's the private sector and the aggregate results of the behavior of the private sector that is producing the human, quote unquote, human activity of interest that's causing a lot of our environmental problems. The residual consequences of technical things we've done in the private sector is just huge. And in this case, this is a simpler problem. You know, a plastic bag floating off and ending up in the garbage patches. You know, that's not as tough a problem as dealing with overpopulation in terms of how you might fix it. So in some ways, you know, we're looking at, you know, kind of the low-hanging fruit. This is an easy symbolic one to say, if we're going to let all this waste kind of blow off in the wind and go off in the currents and end up in centralized areas, it then becomes, you know, not so visual, but a point of interest of which, you know, and it tests our principles as to whether are we going to do something about that or not. And I don't think that's really an environmental question. I think that's kind of a mistake. You know, it's kind of like, you know, do we really need environmental scientists to study the results of setting off a nuclear weapon to decide that nuclear weapons are bad and that maybe we shouldn't do it? I suppose we could continue to study the problem, but at some point you know, some problems move from needing further and further, you know, deeper dive exploration to find out what the answers are. And at some point, you know, you're never going to get perfect information, but you know enough about the problem to say, oh, at least we can begin cleaning up this problem. And maybe it won't be perfect, and maybe we could have done it better. But I feel like the environmentalists and the scientists they get involved in such a debate. I mean, it'll be 100 years before we ever get the results. And by the time we agree upon things, we might be 80 years past when we should have started. You know, this is an easy one. We're just saying, hey, it's like if you throw a concert in Golden Gate Park and you leave a bunch of trash, hey, the people that made the money off the concert are responsible for picking up the trash. And I don't think that that's a difficult message for corporate America to hear at all. I think they're kind of used to that standard, and it's a little bit of an extension of what they were expecting. You know, I'm not suggesting that we have to tax Coca-Cola. What I'm saying is there's actually an industry that we can create that will be related to recovery and fixing the earth, and we are going to unleash and deploy this industry. And it's Coca-Cola's venture company that would be interested in investing because they can make profits from cleaning up the earth, right? It's that shift that'll get us to move faster. Once we establish and show, just like a war makes profits for the companies that produce the infrastructure for war, you know, it's the companies that produce the infrastructure to clean up the environment. They're going to make more than any war has ever seen because there's a lot we have to do. And there's so many things where I think we have tools where if we deployed them in a robot type sense, we could fix the negative consequences of humans being on Earth that we've seen in the last couple hundred years. But I fully hope that, you know, we will have established a leadership kind of thing by actually doing it and showing it can happen and showing that companies can make money doing it. We'll go after other things like the tree problem with the same kind of attitude and the same kind of structure.